So going to bring on my co-host and bring on the guest. We guest tonight. Oops, what's happening there? Seem to have crossed. Okay. So welcome to my co-host, to Gill. Welcome, Taj. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks.
Hi. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. My tech failed a little bit, which is just so annoying. I'm just going to bring on our guest tonight, and there we are. So just bring her on, and then we'll get started. So 2 seconds while Ellen comes on, and she should be with us really soon. Everything's spinning round, a little bit late going on air tonight. How are you? Oh, there she is. Hi, Ellen, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Welcome to Sunday Night Live, coming live from London with Christine, Joanna Hart, and my co-host, Gill. Hi, Taj, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are
Fantastic.
you? I know you're not feeling too well tonight.
Yeah, I know, a little bit. My throat is swollen. Never mind. We've got a guest tonight coming in live from America, the psychic Ellen Red. And I know you know more about Ellen than I do, Taj. Do you want to go ahead and introduce Ellen to everybody?
Yeah, our guest this week is Ellen Red. Ellen is a twin flame coach, ascension guide, psychic medium, channeler, spiritual teacher and lecturer and writer. She's featured on multiple radio shows, podcasts and spiritual forums globally, and runs several successful and thriving large groups and international sites assisting the global collective in accessing higher consciousness, quantum healing and shadow healing work as well. She's worked with thousands of people around the world. Ellen has had multiple near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences and has been working with the non-physical collective consciousness for decades. So welcome to the show, Ellen.
Thank you.
So I was so interested, because I, hadn't come across you before, and Taj introduced me to you, and I was so excited to see your YouTubes and Facebook posts, and the one that really excited me was something about Cinderella and the glass slipper. Could you explain that to the listener and me?
You're funny. Well, your listeners probably won't know what we're talking about there, but I had written a little, I don't know what you would call it, I guess an article in relation to how spiritually, in order to kind of go into those higher consciousness states, we have to learn how to decode metaphor, right? Everything is metaphorical in the spiritual world, or at least a lot of things are. And so in our lives here, as we learn how to decode messages, really it's a story that really affects everybody. So the story of Cinderella is a story that is the same story for all twin flames in a way.
So you're saying it's like a metaphorical story?
Yeah, it's a metaphorical story.
Oh, okay.
And it really, and so you have to decode the messages behind it in order to kind of understand what they mean for you in your life. And I was talking about the glass slipper, and, a lot of people were responding and thinking, well, the glass slipper that she loses, because I wrote in the article that where she lost her glass slipper, that's a really important thing, that she has to find it again in order to reconnect with her masculine counterpart. So it's a lover's story. Everybody on earth, every place that you are in your life, your whole story is really a love story at the end of the day, isn't it? And so anyway, that's what that was about. And a lot of people were thinking that the glass slipper meant, well, it means finding your dreams again, or, a lot of people are interpreting it differently, which is why I wrote it as a rhetorical kind of a statement there.
Interesting. So what is the glass slipper? What does it actually represent, do you think?
I can't tell you that. You have to find that in your soul, right? But it does have a lot to do with finding your soul, because you can't find your soulmate until you find your soul, right? Soulmate, it's a mate that shares your soul. So it's a layer of consciousness that the soul has to kind of decode for themselves and go into their selves. But that's basically what that glass slipper represents to some degree. There's more to it than that, but
Oh, right. It's interesting. And do you think one of us is having a Cinderella experience while the other one is being like maybe having a better experience?
Well, the twin flames are the same soul, and so, but they do have different lives to some degree, and they're polarity energies of that story and of your own personal story. So what you're experiencing as a feminine is going to be more the Cinderella side of things, and what the masculine experiences is the masculine side of things. And that's why they are different in certain ways. But at the end of the day, as they merge together, that's the heiros gamos, where they come into union with each other in a soul level.
Oh, right. Interesting. And how did you start off on this journey? Were you psychic as a child?
I was very psychic as a child. I drowned at age 4 and died and went to the other side, and was really activated in that. And then after that, I think I was even psychic before, but after that, I was definitely aware of the spirit world and very, very, very extremely guided, even as a child. So yeah, that's how I got started on it.
Oh, interesting. And then what happened as what did you move into as you grew?
Well, I had a very difficult childhood, extremely difficult. I was in MK Ultra programming, a sex slave programming, and I was a child sex victim, and being intuitive and being a sensitive and being psychic as a child and going through that was excruciatingly painful, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Oh.
And so I had a lot of difficulty in life. I went through a lot of painful experiences, and at the same time had the psychic gifts, but I didn't embrace them, of course, until later in life.
Oh.
I actually shut them off in my 20s because I went full blown, I went into fragmented consciousness through the MK Ultra programming. And then over the years, I went through a lot of heartbreak and hardship, and I wasn't connected to the spirit. I wasn't spiritual. I wasn't looking for enlightenment or anything like that. I was just trying to survive. I was a single mom, and I put myself through college as a journalist. And I went through a lot of hardship. Everything was falling apart, I couldn't figure out why I couldn't find the right lover, and why I couldn't, make my work fit for me or anything like that. And then in my 30s, I literally, well, I have had multiple death experiences along the way too, but in my 30s, I really got my heart broken, and I felt it tore in half. I felt it tear. I could hear it rip. And when that happened, my soul flew the coop. My soul came out and flew away and went back to God's source. I was over it. Life really shattered me. And isn't that the way it goes, though, for most souls that become illuminated, is that they go through so much trauma. And I realize now, too, that my soul came in choosing that experience so that I would awaken, so I could step into the role of a way shower at this time in the world, So I realized I met the Pleiadians, and I went into, I work with the Galactics all the time now. And, but I basically died. I came out of my body from a broken heart.
So what made you realize that you'd been in the MK Ultra programs? What was the moment that made you wake up from that?
It was when I left my body and went back to God consciousness, and went to source and was shown the whole thing. I saw like my consciousness had been fragmented like a mirror falling on the ground and breaking into pieces. And then source walked me through repairing myself and healing myself. And now I work on healing others.
Brilliant. I know Taj's, he's got a list of, you have a list there, don't you? Do you want to go ahead and go down the list, Taj?
No, I went through like I went through Ellen's website and stuff and made a list of questions, which some of the things I was interested in. I know that you said, we talked earlier about twin flames, but I wanted to ask you, does everyone have a twin flame? And do some people have more than one twin flame? And how would you know?
Well, those are the how you know is the trickiest part. So everybody has a twin flame, like the ultimate God mate, which means 27th dimensional mate, from prime creator, from your prime existence. However, you also have lots of soul groups, and in those soul groups, you can have twin flame aspects, like a whole group of beings that split off, and then they can reflect back as twin flame energies. So you can certainly have experiences where you feel like you're with a twin flame, but it's not, and it really, you have all those twin flame experiences that everybody talks about with twin flames, but it's not exactly the God mate. And so the God mate comes through full-blown enlightenment in the end of the samsara cycles. And so, and how would you know? Well, once you become enlightened and you go back to God consciousness and you graduate your samsara cycles, you've learned the earth lessons, and you are shown by source creator that you've completed your cycles, and then you're also shown your divine counterpart. So it certainly is a God thing, if you will. And when you just so know it, your soul is shown. That's how you know. Now that can be a little tricky because people can perceive and interpret language in the 3D reality, and it's like they're experiencing something and they have these feelings, and it feels like we're so magnetized together. Well, sometimes people confuse that lustful energy of really wanting to be with each other as magnetization, and that's very different from quantum entanglement, which is what twin flames are.
So it's not the same as like a soulmate, or I guess what you would call a soulmate. Is that the same as a twin flame, or is that different?
No, yeah, they're definitely, well, your twin flame is your soulmate. It's the mate that shares your soul, right? They're your ultimate soulmate. But you can certainly have, and people are trying to differentiate. We're trying so hard to explain the difference, but it's really hard to do. It's like trying to explain God, right? It can be challenging to translate that into the physical world, and of course people receive the information and then perceive it from their own scope or realm of experience. But there is a difference from lots of other mates that you could have that maybe you're in love with and you've spent a lifetime with them, or you've spent 10 lifetimes with them, but it's still not the divine God mate. It's so hard to explain this because it has to do with full-blown completion of Earth cycles. And a lot of people on Earth right now aren't in that stage of evolution yet. And so it's one of those things where the soul itself has to go through lots of lifetimes and lots of different experiences before they're going to complete those lessons. And then when they complete the lessons, they get merged with their quantum partner.
I mean, I've met people where I have a connection with them where I almost feel like I know them, but I've never met them before. And I think sometimes maybe people confuse that with being your soulmate or your twin flame, but it's really just someone you maybe have a connection to a past life.
That actually happened to me on multiple occasions on my journey, and I had a soulmate that passed over, and I was so devastated because I was sure that he was the one. And it took a lot of evolution there for me to work through that he still wasn't the right one, and then once I was shown the right one, and I prayed for it too, by the way. I prayed because my heart had been broken so many times. I was trying so hard to find love in my life, and I prayed. I finally went to the source and said, I never want to date another single person unless it is exactly who you want for me. I have to believe that you chose somebody for me, so please show me. And that's part of how I was led there. So
I know you briefly talked about some of your near-death experiences, because I've had a couple of experiences which were, I guess you would say near-death experiences, but they were complete opposites. One was very similar to yours. I drowned, and my life flashed before my eyes, kind of thing. And the other one was very much the opposite, where I was in a car accident and everything slowed down. Everything was almost like in slow motion. It was almost, I don't know if it was the adrenaline or the shock or whatever, what happened, that everything, almost time seemed to slow down. Have you experienced something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We call it freezing time. I've actually done that, not just through near-death experiences, but just through when I was being activated and initiated into the great mysteries, is that I was driving down the street and everything just stopped. I was able to see a butterfly that was frozen in the air, and I was able to see this woman in the car driving by that had a broken elbow or wounded energy in her elbow that came from somebody in her childhood that traumatized her. And I just saw everything all around me because time totally froze, like you see in the Matrix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, it was really, I know it was very strange. I mean, the drowning was, I was literally like drowning. Someone jumped in and saved me. And as I was like underwater for maybe, I don't know, 30, 40 seconds, all I could see was, and they say that, you know, your life flashes before your eyes because it's like a flight, or what's the word they call it, flight or fright response, that your brain is trying to work out what to do.
Right.
Because it's in a situation where you're dying, and so it's going through its memory, it's going through your thoughts to find a solution to the situation that you're in. But there is no solution because I was basically in an undercurrent that was pulling me under, and there was no way, no matter how hard I swam, that I would be able to get out of that situation. Then someone jumped in and pulled me out. And in the car accident, it was a winter's day. Our roads were icy, and I was maybe driving a little too fast, and I lost the back. I felt the back end of the car go, and then it spun around a couple of times. But it was maybe last 10 seconds, maybe not even 10 seconds, but it felt like, you know, a lot longer than that. The car spun around a couple of times, hit the metal barrier, and then I could see everything around me. Like I could see there was a car behind me, there was a car in front of me, and somehow I managed to miss every single car, and the car just rolled onto the side of the road by itself. And it was a very weird, and you know, I think a guy who was behind me, you know, pulled up behind me, ran up and said, "Are you okay? You know, can't believe you didn't hit anything, hit any other car there."
Right.
And everything was like in slow motion because I could see everything that was going on, but there was nothing. It was out of my control. There's nothing that I could do. I might as well, you know, and I was literally like, my hands were like stuck to the steering wheel. I couldn't.
Incredible! Wow.
And
yeah, that's crazy.
That's just a weird experience. Which, and I also wanted to ask you, like, everyone has like a different idea of death and what it is, and most people nobody really talks about it because it's not something they want to engage in, kind of thing, until maybe they're older. And what do you think death is? Is death sort of like a transition to like another reality? Is it like almost like a stopping place? I mean, people talk about heaven and the tunnel of white light and seeing old family and friends and things like that, and everyone's sort of experience of that kind of thing is different. But what do you think sort of happens to you when you die?
Well, I think it's just you get wiped clean, although I think there's a lot more to that, because sometimes people pass over, and I see this in the astral realms a lot, that they pass over and they haven't completed their work here, or they died with, you know, attachments already in their soul, and they have to still be cleared before they get to even higher dimensions, meaning going all the way back to source. So there's lots of dimensions, right? After we pass over, there's not just you die and you go straight to heaven necessarily. I mean, you do get cleaned, you do get kind of wiped clean, if you will, and then shown whatever you're going to do next. Are you going to come back and take a new body, or, you know, what are you going to do next? So yeah, it's kind of like if you ever saw the cartoon Soul. Have you guys ever seen that?
I have seen that. Yeah, it's about someone who dies and they're running around in heaven causing chaos and stuff. So.
I saw Heaven Can Wait. That seems to be quite good.
So it's a cartoon. It's actually really, really cute, and it really kind of makes a simple version of death. It's cute if anybody wants to see it, for sure. But yeah, they just, you know, you pass over, you go to the other side. Now all your wounds are washed clean, and you're kind of, you get a break, you get a breather from the earth reality, and then you get to decide what you're going to do next. And sometimes, again, if you aren't completely ready for 5D New Earth, then you're going to come back again and have a different experience and try to get through it. The thing is that when you come into Earth again, your memory's wiped. You lose all the memory of all your past lives and everything that your soul already knows, so that you can have this new experience to retrieve whatever other information you need and to learn alignment. Because at the end of the day, it's really about getting that Christic alignment. Ascension, has to do with being on the Christic path. And if they're not on the Christic path and they don't have all the codes activated in their soul body, then they're going to have to keep coming back. I like to say it like the higher dimensions is kind of like going into your mother's living room, where she has brand new white carpet and white couches and white curtains and everything, and she's not going to let you in there if you come in there with mud on your feet or dirt on your hands. You have to get your soul clean and clear and ready to live in the codes of the angelic codes. And so that's what Earth is all about, is learning to become an angel, basically.
And I think you were doing, I think Charles said, activating light codes. How does that work? How do you do that on your clients?
Well, it's different for everybody. I'm guided by the spirit world on how to do that, and I also get a lot of assistance from the spirit world, so they come in and assist me through that. We do a lot of astral healing and activations can come both through energetic, kind of like Reiki healing through these guides, and also through myself. And additionally, it's activating codes in their consciousness, meaning that I mind map them, and I scan their soul body, and I'm able to see where they have inactive codes, and then I'm able to work on that area with them and walk them through what they need to do to kind of rebalance and recorrect and realign themselves. And we clear energy and we clear the codes, and then we activate, their soul blueprint, which is a divine angelic blueprint. And so people have that divine blueprint within their being, but then they get into Earth and they take on this other template. And the template that they take on, they're really distorted. Maybe they were raised in a bad situation or whatever it is. They've got this earthly 3D templating, and that 3D earthly templating is not necessarily in alignment with their soul blueprint. So we work through that to rebalance them and realign them. Everything's about alignment, isn't it? That the more aligned we are, then the more we instantly manifest, and we instantly attract our soulmate, and we instantly line up with the work that we're supposed to be in, that makes us happy, that's aligned with source. And so that's what we do there.
And how do you do the mind mapping? What do you view? Do you kind of view them on a higher level? How does that come about?
Well, I do a lot of things, I guess, because I'm fully psychic. I have all the C's, right? Clairvoyant, clairaudient, everything. And so basically I read tonals, I scan their light body, I see it through, like, I guess, superhuman gifts, right? Where you can see the soul body. And I also discuss things with them. I talk to them. I look at their life. I look at what's going on with them. I listen to the way that they're thinking. I can see where they have some ET implants, and then I'm able to help them from that. So it's a whole collection of things that I'm doing there all at once, if you will.
Mm-hmm. And you said about the Draco Lyran wars. Is that the dragon bloodline and the Lyrans, and why are they warring at this time?
Well, there's lots of different dragon bloodlines. The Dracos are only one of them. And I wouldn't say that they're warring at this time. They warred before, and the Dracos destroyed the Lyran constellation, which is why the Lyrans descended into other planetary systems like Pleiades and Arcturus. So there is this old ancient battle that happened in the galactic realms because of the Lyrans and the Dracos, and the Lyrans ended up having to they lost their home, if you will. And then now what's happening is that as we are unfolding things on the earth plane, everything that's happening here on the earth is an extension of what's going on in the cosmos. Well, that wound for the Lyrans is an eternal wound, right? It's something that's always there, and they're here now in the earth plane assisting humanity. For those of us that are connecting with them, they're here assisting humanity because, and a lot of us are ETs too, by the way. So a lot of us have the ET bloodlines in our DNA, and that's why, you know, people are saying I'm Pleiadian. Well, yeah, you are Pleiadian or you are Lyran. So that's what the Starseed readings are for. But as far as what they're doing on the earth plane right now, they're trying to we're really breaking those cycles here on earth. It has to be done here on earth. Earth is the biggest deal in the cosmos right now. This whole story on earth is the biggest deal ever. And so, you know, we have the support of so many beings from all over the galaxies, but there's also the dark forces that are working against us and that are trying to make this a prison planet and enslave humanity. And so that's part of what the war is here, if you want to call it that. And I know a lot of people don't like that word, but, you know, it's a spiritual battle.
Why are we so important then? Why is the human, or what's going on with the human race and ascension? Why is it so important to the whole, like such a wide range?
Everybody listening is going to love to hear this because it's the truth, that the souls that are here on earth are the greatest spiritual warriors in all of the cosmos. This is the truth. The beings that got to choose to come to earth, and there were many, many souls that wanted to come that were not chosen by source because they didn't have exactly what it took to be able to handle the earth mission. The earth mission is where the souls who are most advanced in spirituality, most advanced, and you wouldn't believe that if you go into Walmart, right? Because a lot of souls are so detached from who they really are. But the truth is that we are the only beings that came into this. This is the densest reality. This is the densest planetary system right here where we're at. And we're the only souls who agreed to be able to cut off completely from the light and then find our way back. We've been working at this for millennia, really. And so that's why it's so important, because we're the only ones that were chosen and chose to come to do this mission. And at the same time, after we got here, we had ET interference. And that's the problem, is that we weren't supposed to be reincarnating, right? That's like an astral spider web in the astral plane. And then the things that they're doing here also that are causing a lot of distortions, so that people are having a hard time ascending again. But again, it's kind of like fallen angel technologies that are being woven throughout the planetary system, and that's what we're battling against.
What makes it so unpleasant here, do you think? Because I, the same as you, went through sexual abuse and rape in childhood, and was left with pedophiles and yada yada yada, and I resent that, because you see other people having nice lives, and you think once you've been through that, you never really see the world in the same light.
Yeah,
you kind of see it as ugly.
Well, you see it for what it is. That's not our angelic blueprint. They don't molest children in the higher realms. Like, that's absolutely unacceptable, of course. But again, it's these nefarious forces, and these nefarious forces do not serve the source. And a lot of them don't have bodies. They were never given bodies because a lot of them actually chose right in the beginning that they were going to follow the light. And so they weren't given bodies, some of them. Some of them were given bodies because they thought they were going to follow the light, but then they fell into these, dark programs.
Is that to do with, like, the story of, like, the fallen angels and a lot of, like, demonic stuff that might be going
very
on?
Much so. Very much so. And possession, because because they don't have bodies, they can connect to your chakra system, and then they can live through you. They take a host, and then they use the host, and then they get the host to think thoughts and believe things and do things that are not in alignment with the divine will. So it's very, very nefarious. And of course, that is playing out in this reality here. And each soul is being tested, because even if they are possessed, the soul still has the accountability, the responsibility that they have to take to realign with the divine source. So
why do some people have a really hard time in childhood, that really, that targeting?
What you mean, like why would children be targeted for molestation or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, good question. Well, that's because of the bloodlines, and also the bloodlines of Christ, right? The Christos bloodlines, the Christos founder races. Well, I'm not just talking about the guy Jesus. I'm talking about the Christos beings that were originally, the angelic beings. And so these nefarious forces, they know every single one of us. They know us, and we know them in the spirit world too. That's why you feel dark energy when you're around something that you know isn't pleasant, and you sense it. Well, they sense us too, and they sense that we're in the light, and they will target us, especially as children. And they do target us, especially as children, the Lemurians and many other races, basically, that are in the light, and they do target them to fragment them when they're small, so that they can keep them from getting back to source. It's all about, it's at the end of the day, it's all a God thing, isn't it?
Oh, I see. That's interesting. So the targeting isn't just to sexually abuse them or beat them, it's to fragment them. So the target, the thing, that their agenda is to fragment them.
Well, partially, it's also to control them, because they can't, a soul is very easily able to be controlled if they're hurting, broken, don't have a good family, don't feel loved, don't have support, and those kinds of things. And so, once they do that, they can control them, and they control them again through possession.
They can be manipulated more easily and controlled.
Exactly. And of course, it's a frequency war as well, because they're holding down the frequency of Gaia, which is the heart of God too. So there's a lot there. There's not one simple answer to that, but it's a big thing, and there's a lot of different parts going on there. But
I wanted to ask you about starseeds, because a lot of people talk about starseeds and the fact that there is, I don't know if there is or not, but this is what I've heard. There's a lot of starseeds on Earth right now. Because of what's happening with the Ascension. What is their purpose here?
Our purpose is that we saw what was happening in the higher dimensions, from the higher dimensions, and we saw what was happening and needed to come in to assist humanity, because humanity's about to be annihilated. We're about to lose this war, literally. We're about to lose the whole kit and caboodle. And I've seen those timelines in the higher dimensions where the whole planet blew up, and it was China, Russia, USA, and Korea were involved in basically blowing up the planet with nuclear bombs. That was something that I saw in the astral grid. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to live out that timeline here. That timeline exists in the cosmos. It doesn't have, we can skip that timeline here. And that's why all of the starseeds came in, is to start assisting in preventing that from happening, and to start helping souls learn how to get back through that ascension grid. They have to learn how to navigate in the astral realms. It's the only way that they're going to get through this. So
if you've seen these things happen, what has stopped them from happening? Do you believe in fate, and that everyone's sort of life is already mapped out for them before they're even born?
Well, to some degree, there's truth in that, but because we're quantum beings with quantum realities. Let's say, for example, so at any given point in time, any choice that you make can cause 7 other outcomes or realities. Yet there's multiple options there. It's not like one exact, perfect written plan necessarily. Although the soul will take in a body and say, okay, we're going to do this, you're going to have this body, these things are going to happen, and you're going to blah, 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 and then you're going to awaken here when you see 1111, right? That's what all those codes are for. As you start seeing those numbers, it's because your soul already agreed that you were going to start to awaken when you start to notice those things. And then you see it, and all of a sudden you're getting activated. Oh yeah, something's going on with me. There's something about that. What is it? But sometimes in your journey, your soul could have chosen, well, you're going to go this way or you're going to go that way. And if you fall off the path, which most people do, we call that soul splitting, they fall off the path and they go a different direction. Well, it's not necessarily bad, because your soul also gains information from that as well, and can learn from that experience as well. So there's not necessarily an exact perfect way to do things, but the more in alignment that you are, the more easy everything gets in your life, because you're lining up with what your soul plan was.
Yeah, I mean, I saw something the other day about manifestation. When people want something in their life, they're doing the wrong thing. They're asking the universe for it, and then they're wondering why the universe isn't giving it to them. And it's really because they're not at the correct frequency to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to somehow work to change it, their frequency, or being in alignment with what they want. And
right.
people don't understand that. People think that they can do what they want, act like they want, and pray for money, love, whatever, and think that, why are my prayers not being answered?
Yeah. Yep. And they need a lot of shadow healing there, because they have some underbelly issues that are going on that have to be cleared out before they can get in that frequency. And so that's why we have to do the sacred work. It's a frequency work, and it's energetic work that has to be done, and it's all about the energy work. You can be doing absolutely nothing and sitting in your room for a month straight and be doing energy work, and it's a way more powerful than going and having 3 jobs and getting a college degree and everything else. All that stuff is useless if you don't have the energy work done.
Mm-hmm. Well, personally, I think things like degrees and that are all useless anyway, but
right.
That's all
I
part
agree.
That's all part of the programming that I guess
right.
everyone on this planet goes through when they're
right.
a child up to probably their late teens. And
Yep.
sort of like, in a way, it sort of blocks you and stops you from thinking for yourself.
Absolutely. It's done by nefarious design also, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of that stuff about, how the school systems were set up, like 100, 150 years ago, whenever it was, by the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, whoever you want to name,
Mm-hmm.
as far as, the controllers of the world might be. And all we're taught is to learn to repeat stuff from books. People think that if something's written in a book today, it's like the word of God. It's I read it in a book, so it must be true.
Right, exactly.
And it's like, well, who wrote that book? Where did they get their information from?
Right.
And personally, I think you can't really go back. Yeah, I think our history is also very much nefarious.
Hijacked.
It's been hijacked.
Yes.
And I've been reading a lot, watching a lot of stuff about Christ and who he really was, who created him, and all this kind of stuff. And that makes me think like there's literally hundreds of years, there's centuries of our history that's been wiped from our history books, and nobody knows about what happened during that time.
Right.
And there's so many stories that get repeated over and over again. You wonder, what's true and what's not true. And really, you can only rely on maybe the last 100 years, because you can actually go to someone and ask them what happened, because maybe it's someone maybe 100, 110 years old or whatever. Prior to that, you have to rely on what's written and who writes the books, the people who are controlled, obviously. So,
well, yeah, the internet's breaking the matrix, isn't it? Because it's connecting us all over the world, and now they can't suppress the information because it gets getting out too fast and too spread out, because a lot of us know what's going on. So as much as they try to stifle us and control us, even with the internet, it's not going to work. And whereas our ancestors before wouldn't be able to hear about things going on in China unless they traveled to China, and most of them didn't have the money. And so, you know what I'm saying? It's like now we're just instantaneously able to connect all over the world and share what's going on all over the world, and it's cracking the matrix apart.
yeah, and you're also able to go ahead, Christine. Sorry.
Thank you. Do you think that the dark forces come from humanity, come from a bad bloodline of humanity? I mean, seems
No.
like it's. Oh, you don't think it is?
No, I really don't think it is. Yes, to some degree, well, obviously every single human being has a responsibility to keep their soul in alignment with spiritual laws, and many don't, but why they don't comes from something that is beyond this world, really. And it's an influence, it's an energy that's here. It's kind of like they're serving Moloch, right? But I don't believe that came from humanity just being wicked, that there's wicked, humans just decided to be wicked. I don't believe that, really. Although we were given the design of the ego, and so it's in our design to have that part of our brain that's reptilian. We've been we have all these strands of DNA that they're calling junk DNA, that's really not junk, that have been spliced and altered over the years, and we also have a partial reptilian brain. And so it is kind of part of our design to overcome that part of ourself. That's kind of part of our path here, is to learn how to overcome the lower self. So I guess you could say that maybe humans have to learn how to not be wicked, for sure. But I do believe that there's a much bigger thing going on there, where we have very much so negative aliens that are influencing the earth, and they are helping the military to hijack Mother Earth, Gaia, and to basically rape and pillage her. And they're also, influencing a lot of other dark things that are going on, including the molestation of children. Because when that happens, it basically fuels that dark energy, the dark ones. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. And the elite, of course, that take all the resources.
The wannabe elites. They're not my elites. They think they're elites, but they're really criminals and crooks and demons.
Yeah, it's bad. It's very bad here. You have to pay for everything, pay really high for just, they'll charge us for the air next. It's
yeah. Yeah. They're that way here too, I promise. It's gotten horrible. You're probably paying attention to what's happening in the USA right now with our elections, and the corruption that's being exposed left and right. It's just unbelievable.
Are you in Los Angeles?
I'm in Nevada.
Oh, right. Is that Arizona?
Las Vegas.
Oh, Vegas. Wow, awesome. I love Vegas.
I might be there in a couple of months, but I'm not sure.
Oh, well, say hi when you get here.
I'll be in LA in just over a week, and my birthday is on March the 8th, and I want to spend it in Las Vegas, but we'll see what happens.
Well, if you swing by, I'll come and say hi to you if I can.
Yeah, sure.
It's awesome. Have you got any questions? Because we're running out of time. We've got another 10 minutes. Do you want to?
Yeah, I've still got loads of questions. I don't know which one to ask next.
Your favorite?
I was watching this thing yesterday. You know, the whole 2012 thing, yeah? Where everyone thought the world was going to end at 2012.
Right.
And the guy was explaining it to me on a video. He was in the military, I think CIA or something like that. And they were talking about Project Looking Glass. I don't know if you know about that. And there was an issue with the Project Looking Glass where they were unable to look past 2012. And the way he explained it was that everyone has like free will, yeah, but every time you make a choice or something, a new timeline is created.
Yes.
And Project Looking Glass was trying to predict the future and then showing you that future. So you could say, like, if I did this and this and this, what would my future look like? Yeah. And then they found out at some point it didn't matter what decision you made, yeah, that you would always come to the same future. And that was for everyone. And so they assumed that meant, oh my God, it's the end of the world. You know? Because what other possibility could it be that it doesn't matter what decision everyone on the planet makes, it all ends up with the same future. And so they stopped the Project Looking Glass, because they didn't want anybody else to find out about what was going to happen in 2012. But then he said, well, what it really was about the Ascension. And what do you think what really happened in 2012?
Well, that's a kind of a good question, and I can't say that I have exactly the right answer because I don't know if there is one exact right answer there. But, as you were talking, I was being told by Spirit that one of the things that caused some distortion there is that our clocks are all off track, our calendar is also off track, and so the whole timelines are off track. So to try to predict any particular date or anything that's going to happen on an exact date is sort of nonsense anyways, because the dates that we're living by on this calendar on Earth is not even really accurate. And then secondly, I guess if they weren't able to see things, well, what I understand about that is that their intentions weren't, I don't know. I don't know that their intentions were in the right place for them to be able to see beyond that, because if they weren't accessing the new Earth and being shown those things, then maybe their frequency wasn't high enough to access more information.
I mean, the way the guy explained it was because of the Ascension. It was almost like 2012 was I guess you would say the beginning of the new Earth, where there was almost like a split in the timeline, where the people who ascended started their timeline in their reality, and everybody else moved off onto their timeline and were in a different reality. And that's why you have things like the Mandela effect, because you have two parallel timelines running at the same time, and some people remember the past differently because they were on that timeline, they were on the old timeline, and people on the new timeline remember the past in a different way because they were on the new timeline. So even though you have these timelines running in parallel, the past for those people is different, because at that point, 2012, it split off, and there are almost like two Earths here right now. Even though we can only see one, we can only see one. Well, I can see one, and you can see one, but your one is different to mine. Or Christine's might be different to somebody else's, because we're all experiencing our own individual timelines, but then we also have the collective timeline, which for the people in the new timeline would be the 5D whatever Ascension one, and the other people would be, I don't know what to call it, a lower sort of timeline, or the more depressing timeline. I don't know.
Yes. I totally agree with everything that you said and that he said, because I was shown that too, the whole split off, and that those that weren't choosing Ascension were basically going to fall into an even darker world. So those are the people that you can see like walking around looking at everything going, oh my gosh, it's horrible, and blah, 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 blah. And then you've got the ones that are going on the new Earth Ascension path, and they're looking around and looking at everything. And yes, they recognize the dark forces here, but we're also seeing the beauty of humanity and the beauty of the earth and healing the waters and loving the crystals and loving the animal kingdom and so on and so forth. So we're living in that new earth that's being split apart and ascending into the higher dimensions. But I was shown the same thing, so I totally agree with that.
I mean, with everything that's happened over the past 3 years, I won't mention the name of the what, but everything that's happened in the last 3 years, I think that has actually accelerated the Ascension in a lot of ways, because a lot of people have started to think for themselves. I've even seen this. I've seen this in mainstream as well, even in things like Netflix shows and Amazon and the news. More stuff that would have been considered conspiracy a few years ago is now making its way into mainstream, and people who are not really awakened or whatever are now aware of those things. Government corruption, the financial system, all this kind of thing has now been brought out into the mainstream, and even the people who are not really awake, as we would call it, are now aware of these things, and that's manifested itself in things like protests on the street and all this kind of thing. So how do you feel the future looks for us in the current situation, the current climate, the world climate?
Brighter and brighter every day, really. It's getting brighter and brighter. I've been on this journey for a very long time, and especially as an awakened soul with a full-blown Kundalini activation and a full light body activation and all that. So I've been watching and observing And I can tell you that where we were at 15 years ago to where we're at now is light years away already. We have come so far just in 15 years in terms of people becoming awakened and becoming aware and recognizing that we can't trust our governments and recognizing that we can't just believe everything we're told and questioning some of the things that they're learning in their churches and so on and so forth. So where we're at now versus 15 years ago alone is huge. It's pivotal. Now where we're going to be in another 15 years, I mean, it's just going to get better. The times like this and times like this last 3 years, what you're talking about with that thing that we can't talk about is that it's really, it's like people are the best of the best are getting better. All the people that are doing the good, they're just getting stronger and stronger and stronger and becoming brighter and brighter stars. And then the ones that are doing the dark, they're getting worse and worse. And that's why the split off is happening. So, but for those that are on the ascension path, it's only going to get better and better. And this year, by the way, is going to be really, really awesome. There's a lot of stuff coming up in the next couple of years that are going to be incredibly awesome. So, people got to keep their chin up and keep looking for all of the good things and focus on it, and then take your, step into your role. What can you do to make the world a better place? Because if everybody takes their own initiative and starts to help, boy, things change really fast. I'm a living example of that. I've been doing this work on my own for years and years, and I haven't figured out how to edit video or anything. And I called in the universe some help, and I got 11 helpers, and bam, videos are coming out, and pictures are being made, and workshops are being done, and websites. It's just like we all got to pitch in and do our part, and that's how. But as everybody's doing that, it's only going to get better.
Where can people get hold of you? I know you've got. I really like your Facebook page. You've got a lot of stuff on it. So that's under your name, your Facebook page. But you've also got a YouTube, haven't you, and a website?
Yes, ellenred.com. And if you go to ellenred.com, there's links on there for the website or for the YouTube and the Facebook pages. I have lots of them. I have Twin Flame Initiates pages and groups. I have Psychic Ellen Red. I have lots and lots of different pages and groups. So if somebody just goes on YouTube and types in my name, they'll find me all over. And then of course I'm on TikTok, and I know that's kind of like, another one of those issues. But anyway, I'm there, and I'm on YouTube, and I'm on Twitter and Instagram, so they can just find me. Go to the website and go to all the links there.
Fantastic, brilliant. Taj, any more to say? I have 5 minutes. Thank you for coming on. You've been a great guest.
You're so welcome. I hope you feel better.
No, you've cheered me up, so I
awesome.
Give your energy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another thing I was watching, I think I was watching the same guy who was talking about if everyone, this is another thing about mainstream media I just want to touch on quickly. If everybody thinks like bad things are going to happen, it's almost like you manifest it. It actually happens. So if you think about, oh my God, the war in Ukraine, World War III is going to start. If everybody thinks like that, then you manifest it and it happens.
Yes.
So stay away from mainstream media, stay away from the news, ignore it. And then if it doesn't enter your consciousness, then it can't happen. We can't make it happen. So that's just my contribution to to tonight's show.
There's definitely a lot of truth, and it's not that you want to totally not recognize, not see it, bypass it, and stuff, but you see what it is, and and then you take your energy. Yeah. That's right. And then you take your energy and you fuel the good. And really the money system too, like, all these people will go to the bar and they'll spend $200 a night drinking alcohol that's poisoning their body. And then, take that money instead and fuel it into the healers and fuel it into the people to heal your soul. Put that energy somewhere else that's more positive. You're just taking it, you're transmuting it, you're moving your focus somewhere else. You're moving your energy somewhere else. You're powering each other. We gave all of our monies and all of our resources and all of our energy for eons to these dark forces, and now we can take that same energy and we can move it forward into the light workers and into those that are ascending.